March 14, 2012, my son Thomas lost his battle with the disease of addiction. I now belong to a club that no parent should ever belong to. Do you know the signs? Do you know the trends that children are doing in today's world? Do you know the signs and symptoms? Do you know the signs and symptoms of drug abuse? I want to empower and educate Long Islanders by bringing a force of professionals and how to prevent the disease of addiction. Long Island in Crisis. Good evening and welcome to Long Island in Crisis. And tonight is a very special show, and one of my very favorite people, Kim Laube, is here. And we're going to talk about prevention. We're going to talk about empowering parents and educating on how to have the conversation with your children. If you're not having the conversation with your children, someone else is. On Thursday, November 19th, is National Night of Conversation. And Dr. Oz will have a special feature on having that conversation at your dinner table. And not only with your family and your children, but with anyone. We have to stop the stigma and the shame of the disease of addiction. And we just need to empower ourselves, because if we don't want to be standing where we are today, 5 years from now, we have to change the youth of today. We have to do better, and we can do better. So here is my very special girl, Kim Laube.
Thank you. Yay. Thank you. Love being here.
I know.
And being part of this conversation, which hopefully begins to stir and have a ripple effect and impact other conversations that need to take place. Yeah.
There is hope, there is recovery, and prevention does work.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, I know that word with certain, with some parents is a very difficult word.
Yeah.
Could I have done something to prevent my son? He made a choice. He made one bad choice, and he's a child, and kids are going to do that. Yeah. Unfortunately, he didn't have the turn-off switch. So you do the best you can in the moment in time that you are.
Sure.
For anyone with any circumstance. But I know that prevention works.
Sure. The thing about addiction is it's a chronic progressive disease, and that's exactly what it is. We struggle to accept that it's a medical disease, and it is a medical disease, right?
Yeah.
When we use prevention, awareness, education, we use it in the framework that if we can delay that substance from going into the body for as long as we possibly can, then there's a potential that we could delay the onset, and we can delay that switch, or maybe even slow down the switch if we wait a little bit longer till those brains are fully hardwired. So it starts in a couple of different ways. Education is key, and making sure that education is happening at all different levels of a young person's life, raising their awareness, giving them skills, and not just skills to just say no, but skills to really understand how to deal with their emotions and deal with what's going on in their world. Coping mechanisms, right? We somehow stop talking about those with young people, and as we live in the busyness of our worlds and the fast-paced lives that we have, especially here in Suffolk County, where we're running from job to job to event, and we kind of live in this whirlwind, it becomes really difficult to manage some of the stress that young people feel.
I think that not on purpose, but parents just and all people assume that you got that. You'll figure it out. But when my daughter went into middle school, and they went to middle school in 5th grade at that point, all of a sudden she goes from this nice enclosed classroom to switching classes. She's 10 years old, but no one stopped to give them study skills, organizational skills. But those are not tasks, or those are not skills that you learn as a 10-year-old.
Sure.
On how to handle this schedule now. So we have to break things down for them.
Absolutely. as we could do a whole show on Common Core and the educational system and all that, and I certainly don't want to take this conversation there. But one of the things we're missing is that opportunity in classrooms to really help that skill set that supports that education. And I get to travel the country and talk to young people, and there's one thing that is consistent, whether I'm in Illinois or San Diego or Suffolk County or Shelter Island or Syracuse. I ask kids all the time, if they ever had an adult tell them they have to feel good about themselves and have good self-esteem and not let what other kids bother you, what other kids say about you bother you. And I say, how many of you have had an adult say, just let it roll off your back, feel good about who you are? And almost 100% of the kids will raise their hand. Then I ask them that killer question, and here's the killer question. How many of you have ever had an adult show you how to feel good about yourself? And the hands go down. And it's very few. So we continue to have this expectation that kids have this skill set and they know it, and the truth is they don't. Then I start to listen to them, not just talk at them, but really listen to them and ask them about the things that are stressing them. And first for them to even, once you mention the word stress or anxiety, they just look down because you could just feel it coming off of them. The need to specialize in lacrosse or specialize in dancing, or, we have all these.
At the age of 12.
At the age of 12, right? So
Right.
and parents, super max, I have to drive my kid here, I have to get my kid there, he's got to go to this special training or that special training. And so it's really become a society where all good intention,
All great intentions.
well-meaning things.
Yeah.
But the level of stress and pressure that is on young people today is so much different than what we could have ever have imagined. And it's a busier time. Now, what do they look to do? They look to release that.
Yes.
Right? Easy breezy. Look at the adults. How many adults look to release the stress that they're under? And so if we don't give them those right coping skills, alcohol is generally the first thing they'll choose on a Friday night to just feel better, to just feel good, to just feel like, I can breathe a little bit now, let loose, and have a little bit of fun. And so when we talk about prevention, we really need to have in the conversation those skill sets of how to begin to release without necessarily needing to use a substance to do that.
And I speak at all treatment facilities,
Mm-hmm.
and the golden question that I ask people in treatment is, if you could go back in time and speak to yourself, what age would you be?
Yeah.
And shockingly, it's 12.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's 12.
Mm-hmm.
So the world is moving at this fast pace, and if we really think about 12 years old, that's a baby.
Yeah.
It's a baby. With all of these things piled on top of them, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And if you're not having the conversation with them, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Their friends are going to have the conversation with them.
Yeah. Or even better yet, not talk to them, and we'll just act out as a result, right? And we see that happening
Yes.
time and time again. I watch young people, when I put them all in a room and suddenly we get them in an environment where they're safe and talking, and these are not kids, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, these are not kids who are in crisis. These are just kids walking the hallways of every school in any
Yes.
town. And as they begin to talk, and they begin to talk about all the different things they're feeling, they're amazed that the person sitting next to them is feeling the same things they are. But they're
Yeah.
not talking about it. Because somehow if we talk about those feelings, or if we talk about just stress in general, there's this assumption that we're not strong, and we're supposed to be strong and be able to handle it.
Or they're going to feel awkward. They're
Mhm.
awkward.
Sure.
Because how could anybody feel what I'm feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're individual, but
Mhm.
when you really get down to it, we're all so alike.
Yeah.
So what's stressing one is going to stress another.
Mhm.
And the world has to slow down. And they need, like you said, coping
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah.
Learn how to breathe,
Mhm.
learn how to take a step back, and not have everything fixed for them either.
Sure. Yeah, and those are
That's-
two really important points. First of all, let's teach kids to unplug just a little bit and unplug from their electronics. And
Yes.
I love when I give workshops and I don't have to look down at a part, and that means their heads are up looking at me and having eye contact. That's a beautiful thing when that happens, because that means that that young person is right there in the moment
Yes.
with us. And so we need a lot more opportunity for kids to have those moments where they're unplugged and they're just really connected with what's going on in the
In
moment.
the world.
In the moment, in the world,
Right.
and in that experience right then and there. And teaching them those things like how to breathe and how to learn to take care of themselves, or to walk on the beach, or to do whatever it is that begins to just reduce that stress, so all that stress doesn't spill over and become something bigger, you know. And teaching those management skills are so important today.
It's unbelievable. You know, I know when I was young,
Mm.
we came home from school, you did your homework, and
Watch
you went
that
out,
after school special.
and you went outside and played.
Mm-hmm.
You just went outside and played.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so sometimes speaking to parents, but you don't understand. They have the schedule. Who set up the child's
Yeah,
schedule, though?
yeah.
If you say no to an activity, they're going to get over it.
Mm-hmm.
But as parents, we want to give everything to our children.
Yeah.
Sometimes, really, what they need is solitude,
Yeah.
peace and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting at home on the couch, you know, reading a book,
Mm-hmm.
reading the iPad, or just watching TV. Sometimes that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's important as we talk about this National Night of Conversation. One of the things that's so important with kids is one, talking with them, right? Finding out really what's going on with them. And one thing that's important to this generation of parents is that our kids are talking to us, right? We want
Yeah.
our kids to talk to us and let us know what's going on. And sometimes we forget to keep our parent hat on. We always have to keep that parent hat on.
Absolutely.
And I challenge parents that you can be their friend and their parent, but you always must be their parent first above
Absolutely.
above everything. But as we talk about this conversation that needs to take place and needs to continue to take place, not just on November 19th, but on all the
Absolutely.
other days too, but really becomes important that even us as parents model how to deal with emotions to our kids and model how to take care of ourselves in front of our kids, because it's not what we talk with our kids about, it's not what we say to our kids, it's about them watching what we do
The
in
example.
all areas. And that especially becomes important when it comes to alcohol, because if our kids always see us socializing, partying, celebrating, or dealing with our stress, or every time we get the family together there's always alcohol at the center, then that becomes very norm to them. And so it really becomes important to not only have conversations with kids, but to really work on showing them that we can do the same as adults, and really modeling some real good healthy behaviors with them.
Without it, you know, what's better than going for, you know, a walk with your
Mhm.
child? You know,
Yeah.
we live on Long Island.
Mhm.
So, I mean, fortunately for us, we're surrounded by water. So you can get to a beach pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But to sit down and just say, I had a bad day.
Yeah.
Had a bad day. A lot of bad things happened to me today, and I'm tired.
Yeah.
Let's order a pizza and just relax.
Yeah. And this is how I'm going to deal with it, right? So we
This
we,
is
we
exactly.
figure out what the feeling is. We talk about what that feeling is. We have a moment to let some of that go and release just by talking about it, right? And then begin to, we always teach kids to create gratitude lists and to write them out. And
Yes.
we teach adults that too, but primarily my work is with kids. But to really begin to say, okay, this happened, and, so what now, what now? How do we shift and move and do the next thing and take a look at what my life has and the abundance that's in it, and what can I do to change that potentially, right? So, because it's not always going to be an awesome day out there, right? And so it becomes important to teach kids, young people, the skills to how to navigate through that stuff, and how to, once you navigate through it, how do you learn from that? How do you take that opportunity and use it to make yourself stronger the next day? And not just build up a wall stronger,
Right.
but really take a moment to reflect and say, how could I have shown up better in the world on that? How could I have maybe gossiped a little bit less, or not necessarily personalized something, or managed my emotions a little bit better through the day? How could I have done those things, and each day build upon the next and just become stronger and stronger? And most importantly, with young people, how can I be of service to others and
Yes.
help others, and really make and be those change makers? And there are so many change makers in the world, and I'm so
well,
fortunate.
last week we had the young kids
Yeah.
from Lindenhurst.
Awesome,
Just
right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, everyone can step up and be that you don't have to be big in the world, but, if you just see somebody picking on your friend,
Yeah.
hey, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
A kind word and a pat on the back.
Mhm.
If treat other people as you want to be treated, the golden rule. If we
Right.
went back to the golden rule.
Right.
And I think really important for young people, your problem may not be fixed in one day. And that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You got to let go of what you can't control
Mm-hmm.
and just, tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
And it's okay that this didn't get fixed today.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything is immediate gratification.
Absolutely.
Because in their world,
Mm-hmm.
microwaves, Google,
Mm-hmm.
they have immediate to everything right away.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to teach them that things don't get fixed in a half an hour sitcom.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's important for them to realize.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this message.
Kibbles and bits, kibbles and bits. I'm gonna get me some kibbles and bits, kibbles and bits, kibbles and bits. I'm gonna get me some kibbles and bits.
Kennel Ration introduces Kibbles and Bits, a brand new idea. It's 2 new dog foods in one. Kibbles, a new crunchy, meaty tasting dry, and Bits, a new chewy burger-style food. He'll crunch it, chomp it, absolutely devour it. Kibbles and Bits, 2 great new dog foods in one.
Kibbles and bits, kibbles and bits. I'm gonna get me more kibbles and bits.
Hi, I'm Tatiana, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from heroin addiction. It was really, really hard, waking up in the morning, not knowing what to do, needing my next bag. I was so lost, but I'm here today to tell you that there is a solution. When I was in my active addiction, I didn't realize that there was another way of life. I thought that that was the only way, because it felt so good to get high, but it was all an illusion, and I didn't realize that. But today, being 4 years clean and sober, my life is absolutely amazing. I'm able to travel, I don't need a drink, I don't need a drug. I'm just happy being with myself. I couldn't understand for many years why was I doing this? It's because I was an addict, but I didn't know it. Today, many kids are becoming addicted to drugs and alcohol, but they don't know exactly what they're getting into until they're out of it. And it's our job, it's my job, to stand for these kids, stand for their recovery, and fight for their addiction. So I'm the president of Onward Forever, and I provide recovery services and support. And we're here to help. We're here to just listen. Anything that we can do to help. If you need me, this is how you get a hold of me. Please call 347-244-1550. 347-244-1550. I developed this company to help you, our families, and our community to fight this crisis on Long Island and in our nation. Thank you.
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis and my special guest, Kim Laube. So, tonight, by the end of tonight, I want parents to have a reference guide. So we just talked about the New York State Department of Alcohol and Substance Abuse, OASIS,
Yep.
has a website, combatheroin.gov. Yeah, .gov. And I was fortunate enough to do the PSAs and to be involved with their Talk to Prevent. And so important. So there's so many things. No one should be afraid of the name of their website because no one starts with heroin. Let's make that
Absolutely.
very clear. No one starts with heroin. Cigarettes, alcohol, and marijuana are the gateway drugs.
Yep.
And anyone, if you want to convince yourself that those aren't gateway drugs, that's your prerogative, but it unfortunately is.
Yeah.
No one picks up and starts snorting opiates. So that's established. So we need to be able to show parents right?
Yep.
So I know there's a great percentage that you give from 8th to ninth grade,
Oh, yeah.
which
So-
is staggering and frightful.
Yeah. So there are a couple of pieces. First of all, hats off to New York State Oasis for that Talk to Prevent pamphlet they put together, referral source they put together. If every parent should just go on there and look, Talk to Prevent.
Talk to, so they're also releasing videos for PTAs, church groups, for everyone. Talk to parents to children, PTAs, to PT, everyone is covered
Yeah.
in their literature, everyone.
And the toolkit is really awesome. I've actually been handing the toolkits out when we do parent presentations, and let's talk about why. First and foremost, one of the first pieces is really clear, accurate information, right? We know we're in the middle of a crisis, and we're all talking about heroin and opiates. And what concerns me sometimes is we get caught in talking about the drug of the day, and we miss the fact that we're talking about addiction, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm really concerned and so afraid of what heroin's doing and what the opiates are doing. And I'm even concerned about the synthetic marijuanas. And
That's frightening.
if you start to really talk about our nursing homes, they have 18, 19, 20-year-old individuals living the rest of their lives in nursing homes because of the damage that was done from the synthetic marijuana. And so my concern is, if we talk about the drug of the day, there's always going to be a next drug. And
Without a doubt.
And drugs are going to resurface, as actually we've seen heroin before. It's not our first time.
It's not our first
time
walk in the
around,
park,
right?
right.
So when we shift and have that conversation about addiction, now let's start to talk about where addiction starts. We get caught up in where addiction ends, right? And we're in crisis mode right now. My job and the job of any prevention provider right now, and anybody really in the field, is let's shift the conversation to where it starts. One of the things that's awesome about this toolkit is we know that there are 4 main areas of a young person's life that they are protected. They call them it's Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Catalano came up with what are risk and protective factors for young people. 4 main areas: their family, their community, their school, and their peer group. And every one of those components has an inherent set of protective factors for a young person's life and can be risk factors for that young person. So when we talk about toolkits and change, we always have to have those 4 different domains
Covered.
in the forefront of our mind, right? Because a family can do everything awesome and perfectly.
Absolutely.
But when that kid goes into the community or the school, there can be risks. And here in Suffolk County, we know that there are very certain risks that go on
Absolutely.
in our schools and our community and with their peers. The awesome thing about this particular toolkit is it gives us clear, accurate information, right? We don't have that. Oftentimes we're just kind of guessing, well, heroin's a problem in this school, but pills are a problem in this school. And the truth is we're all dealing with it. And
Yes.
so there's not one school that's more at risk or less at
And
risk.
it doesn't matter if it's
Doesn't
alcohol or
matter,
pills or marijuana.
right?
It doesn't
matter. So what I like about the toolkit is you get that really good information to look at, right? Not only that, it actually gives you a couple of extra tools, like how to set up a nice contract with your kid, how to
Yes.
set up an agreement with your kid. And it's not just about signing that paper. It's about that conversation that's going to support that paper. Then it actually walks parents through age-appropriate levels, what to say at what certain time. No, you're not going to have a conversation with your kindergartner about hypodermic needles and those, there are age-appropriate ways to begin these conversations with our young people. Then it actually goes on to continue to give parents different suggestions, like different text codes you can set up with your kid. So if your kid, let's say you had the conversation with your kid, they're going to a party, you trust that there are certain things that are going to be safe about this party, and your kid gets there, and guess what? There's alcohol there, and your kid feels uncomfortable, which is awesome. We want kids feeling uncomfortable in that. But now how do we help them get out of that? Well, parents can easily set up a text code. And so if your kid says, hey, how's grandma doing? You know that means it's really time to come pick me up now at
Yes.
the party. Things are not good here, right? So it gives very concrete tools like that. So accurate information, talking points, good data, tools. And then what it really does is it moves us into a whole process of different ways to talk to our kids. Parents will say, my kid doesn't talk to me anymore. And I'll say to them, well, what are some of the questions you ask your kids? And oftentimes as parents, we get into just asking them straight out questions that have a yes or no answer. How was your day? Well, you ask a kid how his day is, you're going to get good, better, right?
Right,
And those
absolutely.
those are the answers you're going to get.
What did you learn? Nothing.
Right? Yeah. And so it really becomes important for us as parents to learn a skill set. Now,
And feed them food while you're asking them questions.
awesome, right? How great
Used
is
to
that?
always work,
How
especially
great
with
is that?
boys.
Yeah. Now here's
Give
the other
them a
thing.
cookie and they'll start to tell you the world.
They'll let you know what's going on, right? So here's the other thing I found even in my own parenting. Gosh, I started parenting in a silo. I thought for some reason I was supposed to know it all. I thought for some reason if I went to another fellow parent and I said, I don't know how to answer my kid on this or deal with this or my kids, somehow I felt that was saying something
You felt
about
inadequate.
me. But interesting, I would ask you about a recipe on how to cook, right?
Yes.
I would say, hey, how do you cook a certain thing? So I think as parents we have to learn that it's okay. This is a process. This is a work in progress. And I'm not going to know
the crazy
everything.
thing is
Mhm.
that their kids are struggling with the same things at
Ah.
some point in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problems are all the same. They just manifest themselves a little bit differently in an individual.
Yeah.
But they're all struggling with the same thing.
I tell you, I have a great friend, and I so hope she's listening tonight, because on Facebook the other night, she went on and she made her status about how she had a meltdown as a mom, and she lost it as a mom, and how her and her kid handled it together. And they actually wound up butting heads, and then they each wound up writing each other a letter and just kind of saying and owning their stuff. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And here's what I loved about it. We go on Facebook all the time. My kid got this award, so proud of my kid, bragging rights,
Absolutely.
all that kind of stuff, right? And this was a mom who went out and said, oh gosh, I really bombed that. I did not do that well. And I think the more we can be human with each other, the more that we could say, how are you handling this? How are parents, and here's the other thing I find all the time. There are parents who do not want their kids around drugs or alcohol, but they don't want to be that parent that says no. And they don't want to be that parent that, that wants to meet the other parents. And somehow we have to give those parents a voice so that they really feel empowered. Because sometimes now the parent who chooses to say, I don't want my kids drinking or drugging, or even around underage drinking or a house party, they don't have their voice. And we really need to begin to give them the tools and the platforms. You asked me a question a while back, and I didn't forget it there, lady. Here's what you asked me. You asked me statistically what's going on
Yes.
with kids. Here's what we know. In 8th grade, right?
So we're talking 13, 14.
Right. So 13, 14 years old, right? In 8th grade, we know on average in Suffolk County that 22% of our young people have tried drugs and alcohol at least once in their lifetime. 22%. That's
By
almost,
8th grade, by
by 8th
13
grade,
or 14
right?
years old.
That's almost a quarter of the population. Here's what I want parents to know. By the time those kids are in 10th grade, that number goes to 66%. It triples. It triples from 8th grade to 10th grade. Now, there's a whole variety of reasons for that. We know when young people go from one building to the next,
Yes.
the stress of the transition, as you
Yes.
touched on earlier, is big. So when kids go into 8th grade, and a lot of our schools here are what we call feeder schools. They come from multiple schools. Not everybody came from that
Yes,
same school.
absolutely.
Everybody's kind of jockeying for position. Everybody's trying to figure out who's in what group and how do they fit
And,
in
you know,
and how do they belong.
From 8th grade to 9th grade, you go from the top dog
Oh,
to the puppy
Yeah.
again. And that's rough.
yeah. And it's rough for parents, right?
Yes.
Because every one of us wants our kid who fits in and is having that
You want
awesome
them just
experience.
to be
and
liked and
Oh,
happy.
sure.
You want that because you never want your child to be hurting
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. But it's okay
Mhm.
for them to feel that
Yeah.
because they have to learn how to cope with it.
Mhm.
You can't protect them forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. because although sometimes the way they grow up here in Suffolk County is very much like a bubble and very protective, the world out there isn't so much like a
No.
bubble, and it's not going to protect them. And they have to learn how to deal with adversity, how to deal with different challenges.
How to deal with the bad grade that
Yeah.
is the consequences of you not doing your work.
Yeah.
That doesn't get fixed,
hmm
you know. And I challenge parents too. If your child doesn't get along with a teacher or a student, they need to learn how to cope on dealing
Sure.
with either rejection
hmm
or different personalities.
hmm
That's life skills.
Absolutely. You know what? How many of us work with somebody now, not in my job, because we all love each other at the Happy Hugs office.
Of course.
However, right, how many of us have a work experience or work with somebody who isn't so easy to work with? We have disagreements with it. We have to figure out how to work with them anyway, right? And that's the character building stuff.
that is the character building stuff. That
we,
is.
We talk, in each of my presentations, I always talk about the kids who get to be called captain and what captain really means, you know. And you can wear a C on your chest for captain, and you can not necessarily have good character.
Right.
And what I want to see schools doing and kids doing is choosing kids who have that really good character, not the popularity, but those kids are doing the right thing anyway. So many times, especially with sports, we see kids, the popular kid, the awesome athlete, they may or may not necessarily have leadership skills. And so it becomes important that we begin to shift and not just go for that popular, but go for that character.
Or the best athlete.
Absolutely, right?
Or the best athlete.
And begin to choose those those athletes or those individuals or those leaders who stand for something, who have a voice and say, I'm going to get behind this. Teaching kids to be drug and alcohol free and standing for that. Wow, the Lindenhurst kids last week.
Oh my gosh, they were just amazing.
My own Hugs kids, right?
Oh, that's a whole nother group.
You know,
but I'm going to hold you on that.
Okay.
And we're going to be right back after this message.
Thanks.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Do dogs chase cats?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
You know you already want a Toyota, but when you want more from your Toyota store, you want Smithtown Toyota, where every Toyota comes with Smithtown Toyota's Toyota for Life program, giving you lifetime New York State inspections, lifetime 10% discounts on all parts and service, 2 years of complimentary oil changes, 2 years of scheduled maintenance, and more, all at no cost to you, plus low clear-out deals on every Toyota in stock. Get more from your Toyota store. Hurry to Smithtown Toyota.
Hi, I'm Tom Mealy from Madhouse TV, and when I'm not at the studio, I'm here at the Harrison Law Group. This is my real job. And this January 2015, Brett and I are putting together a show called Legal Straight Talk. It'll be aired on Cablevision as well as here at Madhouse TV. You need to tune in. This information that we're going to be giving the public is the real deal. It's all about what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So tune in this January 2015 for a new episode of Legal Straight Talk.
Professional motorcycle transport and towing, think Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing.
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis, and we are talking prevention tonight. And Kim, so, you know, parents often think that by engaging their children in sports and keeping them busy, that's prevention enough.
Yeah. Somehow, I mean, there are a couple of prevention strategies that parents have learned over the years, or ideas we just made up. One, we were told, get your kid involved in sports, and that will keep them away from dangerous stuff. And so that's been a great tool. Sports are a phenomenal outlet for kids.
Any clubs
Any
are
clubs,
phenomenal outlets.
Yeah, it teaches them how to work with others, how to be part of a team,
And follow their passion.
yeah, and how to build and how to have a skill and make my skill better, and how do I get better and better and better at my craft. And I can tell you, as a mom of athletes, my son plays
Absolutely.
Division I football now, and just his experience of watching him go through all those steps, awesome tools.
Great stress release.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great
right?
stress release.
Right. Good for the body, good for the soul, good for character, all those different, learning to listen to a coach, all
Absolutely.
those disciplines that come with a sport or being committed to a cause and whether it could be the theater, right? Because again, I have a son who goes from sports
Yes.
to the theater. So as we begin to talk about that, let's talk about the challenge though of when you have that group mentality. Unfortunately, a lot of our sports teams socialize Friday, Saturday night, and alcohol happens to be at the center. of it.
Pre-party, after party.
Yeah, right. So we're either crying over a bad game and we're drowning our sorrows in it and we're releasing that way, or we're celebrating with it. And so it becomes really difficult if you're the parent of an athlete, and we're really strong on athletics here in Suffolk County. But if you're the parent, how do you not let your kid go to a party, right? That's a tough place. And that was one of the things we chose as a family.
Yes.
Tough choice to make, right? Because again, I don't want my kids to be an outcast, right? But I can't do what I do with integrity and talk to parents and talk to kids and then let my own kids go out to a party.
We had the same thing. My youngest son, wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew.
Yeah.
The parent told me, don't worry, I'm going to let them have a few beers,
Yeah.
No, then he's not coming over.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And that's right. How do we get parents to talk to other parents, to even find out? That has broken down, and we need to get a little bit better and stronger. And so when it comes to our athletics and our athletes, there's some great research out there, and I love when I'm in schools and I'm talking to the lacrosse players and the football players and the soccer players and the volleyball players, because there's some great science out there about the effect that alcohol. We're not even talking about the other drugs.
This I know what you're going to say. and
Just
this blows
the
my
alcohol,
mind,
right?
too.
So one night of being drunk, one night of being intoxicated negates 14 days peak performance training time. So if the whole team goes out on a Friday night and they all start to party and tie one on, they're not back to peak performance until 14 days later. Now, I always share this not only with kids, but with parents as well, because there are a lot of parents who really work out and they're committed and they won't even touch that one little carb because they want to take care of their bodies. But one night being drunk from a cellular level breaks down 14 days peak performance training time. Now here's the other part. If an athlete drinks for the next 48 hours, they're more likely for injury. As a matter of fact, they're 50% more, 50% more likely for an injury the next day. And that becomes important for us to know, too, in just keeping this a conversation about health. When it comes to drinking and it comes to addiction, we forget to have the health conversation. That this isn't a conversation about good and bad, and it's not a conversation about morals or who can handle alcohol and who can't handle alcohol. This is simply a conversation about health. We know, I've talked about this in this show before, we know that if we can get a young person to wait until they're older than 21 before they ever pick up a first drink, they have a less than 1% chance of ever developing an addiction. And that all has to do with what's going on in that brain.
The brain is not developed, but, we can go back to the drinking age used to be 18. It
Sure.
was raised to 21, not to hurt anyone. It was raised to 21 because of the science that,
Well, and
the
actually
research that found it out.
Sure, and we actually didn't even have that research. That was about roads and safety and highways and all that kind of stuff. But here's what happened. When we actually changed that age to 21, we saved lives. A remarkable amount of lives were saved as a result of just increasing that. And so what we now know, because of the science, right, is that the back part of that brain, that emotional part of the brain, the part that wants to feel good, that, you know, has all
the
those
part that
crazy
wants
ideas.
to jump off a roof and say, I think I'll be all right.
It's going to be fine. Let's
Yeah,
do that. It's
let's
going to be
do it.
fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be great, right? And then that front part of the brain
It says,
that says you
no,
probably shouldn't.
maybe not.
Yeah, you probably
Yeah.
shouldn't. So you have this gas pedal that goes go, go, go. And you have this brake pedal that says, oh, stop, 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 slow down. And they're not fully talking to each other until an average age of 25.
Yeah.
Now, when we ingest alcohol into the system, that neurological footprint that gets left, as that brain is neuropruning, and that means that that's exactly how the brain grows during this time, that neurological footprint that gets left, well, the next time they see alcohol, it goes off like red sevens at a Mohegan Sun slot
Oh,
machine,
boy.
right? Not that I'm endorsing any
Gambling.
particular casino. However, but that's exactly what happens. Their brain goes ding, ding, ding. So let's go back to the athletes for a second.
But let's just keep in
okay.
mind one thing.
Mhm.
It's against the law
Oh, yeah.
for under the age of 21 to drink.
Yeah.
So let's not minimize that.
Sure, sure. And
So
parents,
if you are a parent of a high schooler
Mhm.
and you're endorsing
Yeah.
the use of drugs and of alcohol in your own home, you are breaking a law.
and in Suffolk County, and here's what people,
Social host law.
really important for people to understand that social host law. One, because if I have young people at my house and I own the house and I'm in the house, let's put aside the civil liabilities, right, wrong, all that kind of stuff. If young people are drinking in my house and I get called to the table by law enforcement, I can be charged with the social host law. And the first time around, it's about a $500 fine. Now, I repeat offend, right? I have young people at my house drinking. I know about it. I'm aware about it. I don't do anything to stop their behavior or keep them safe. Now I can face a $1,000 fine the second time around and or a year up to jail. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't have that kind of money to invest in lawyers and fight this
Absolutely.
and challenge this. And so here's the other part about this law that people really aren't aware of. Let's say I go out of town, my husband and I are out to dinner, and my 19-year-old is home. My 19-year-old, now he doesn't own the house, but he is in control of the domain. He is in control of the house. And he has his friends over, and they're drinking. My 19-year-old can be held accountable under the social host law, too. He's not even 21, but he could be held accountable. So it's just whoever's in control of the domain is who gets held accountable underneath the social host law. And that's really a law that we have to be paying attention to. That law and the Good Samaritan law, which is, we can
And
talk
we
about
know
that a little bit.
The 911,
Mm,
call 911,
right.
don't run.
Yeah.
You're not going to face any criminal penalties,
absolutely.
no matter what the circumstances
Mhm.
are. Just do the right thing and call 911 and save somebody's life.
Yeah,
And that's important.
absolutely.
Don't leave your friend
Mhm.
puking
Yeah.
on the side. Don't leave them unconscious. Don't ever do that. Just call 911. You can stay there. You cannot stay there. I don't even care.
Get them help.
Just get them
Just get 'em
help.
help. And don't leave them to sleep it off. The thing about the complexity of this, and it's a complex issue, right?
It really is.
There's, there's this feeling that this is a young person's rite of passage. There's a feeling by adults, well, we did it, and look at me, I'm fine, and
There are a lot of people that are not fine.
that are
though.
not fine, right? And I always challenge adults, and because you listen to
Yeah.
me challenge them, think about all the people you drank with when we were teenagers. And when we were teenagers, here's the deal. Not all of them came out unscathed.
Right.
Some of them died. Some of them lost their jobs. Some of them have lost their families. Some of them still can't get their act together. Some of them are in jail. So even though we all did it, right, we didn't all come out awesome and protected from it. The game is also different today. If we think for a minute that what's going on with today is the same as what we experienced, we're really missing.
Marijuana
boat.
is so much more potent
Oh my
than
gosh.
it ever was.
Yeah. Mhm.
And kids today know how to strip it
Mhm.
and have 90% THC.
Yeah.
And they have smoking that in a vape pen.
Absolutely.
And we have to be cognizant of that.
Mhm.
And those are the things that are permanently changing their brains.
Oh my gosh.
And highly addictive. Highly, highly, highly addictive.
Here's what I have just been talking with folks about and just really trying to get us to raise our level of awareness about. There's certain things we know about addiction. First of all, we know that it's an adolescent disease. Now, I didn't make that up. People much smarter than myself, through the National Institute of Health, Dr. Laura Volkov, actually, addiction is an adolescent disease. We know that 90% of anybody who has an addiction began drinking in their teen years. 90% began drinking in their teen years. I don't know that there's any other medical condition out there, no other medical disease out there, that we can pinpoint that data. And we're not really mad about that, right? We have to do something about that. That's not stuff that
is a staggering statistic.
90% begin drinking in their teen years.
And it leads to an addiction,
Yeah.
and that can grow.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
everyone needs to address that fact.
Yeah, and it no longer can it be ignored. And so more and more my conversation is with people, yes, we have to talk about treatment and recovery, and we have to talk about access to treatment.
But
if we don't begin talking about where addiction begins, we're just going to keep taking bodies out. And I don't know about you, but that's not a way to keep doing this.
It's always ready, fire, aim.
Yes.
So we have to change that order.
Absolutely.
And we'll be right back after this message.
After all the candles are blown out, after the last toast of the night, Cambridge paving stones with Armortech stand the test of time. Beautifully designed, built to last.
Only Cambridge paving stones have Armortech, our unique process that produces a rich, distinctive color.
Create your own memories with Cambridge paving stones. Visit CambridgePavers.com.
Cambridge paving stones with Armortech will always look like new.
Legends TV presents Vaudeville Review in the 21st Century, December 5th, 2015 at Theater 294 Route 109 in Farmingdale, New York. Easily accessible by mass transit, Long Island Railroad, all major highways, the N72 Babylon bus right outside the door. Featuring hip-hop, R&B, magic, rock, comedy, poetry, pro wrestling celebrities, and much, much more. Starring R&B pop singer, songwriter Roger Ortega and hip-hop great So Soon. Also appearing ukulele rocker Lloyd Gold, rocker Kareen Ulano, Firestone, comedy greats Sherwin XL and Brenda Larson, magician the amazing Louie, poet John Winnell, our house band Alpha and Walter Halverson, mixing blues, rock, and hip-hop in a multi-genre mashup as they perform a great set while serving as our house band. And pro wrestling fans don't miss Rage and Vinny the Guido. Find us on Facebook, Legends TV, Evan Ginsberg, Steve Ludwig, and folks, you missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Legends TV's Vaudeville Review in the 21st Century, December 5th at Theater 294 Route 109, Farmingdale, New York. Be there. All tickets only $20, available at the door, Theater 294 on Facebook.
What are you looking for? You don't even know that. Are you on the ball list? You can't even answer. I'm asking you about it. You gotta be highly skilled. You gotta be highly skilled. You understand that? Are you well versed there? Are you very smart man? Hit me with some funny shit. My shit's twisted. Tell me something. What do you have right there?
That's awesome.
Well,
that's a big. That's nice.
You know damn well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sir, hey, are you interested in twisted not?
Yes, I am. Sure. See, you got twisted.
That's twisted. You see what I'm saying? You understand me? And if you can't whip out answers like that, that man is liable to door to commercial break, punch your fucking mouth loose. You understand me? Time is up, sir. You understand me? You're on. You're the man. All right, give me your name now. I'm sorry. My name is Willie. Willie, where you working at?
We are twisted. We are awesome. We are awesome. Love it. Love it.
Can you repeat that question again?
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis and Kim Laube. Such a staggering statistic that 90% of addiction that continues on into adulthood starts with alcohol use in teenagers.
Yeah.
I don't think there's too much more than anyone has to hear other than that. And the thousands of people that I've spoken to in treatment. And people may want to think that those are the type of people that live under a bridge, and they're not. They're from your community, they're from my community, they're from the best of families, they're from all different walks of life. Addiction does not discriminate.
Yep.
It doesn't judge, and it affects anyone and everyone. No one is bulletproof from the disease of addiction.
And, you know, it's touched every one of our lives right now. It used to be I could go into a school and maybe somebody knew about a family member.
Now half the hands go up. They all know, whether it's their own siblings, or many times it's a grandparent or a parent.
Yeah.
And children are struggling with a lot of things.
Sure.
You know, that no one is privy to till you ask them.
Yeah.
They'll be very, you know, I spoke a few weeks ago at my local church, and an 8th grader had lost 2 brothers, 2 uncles. So the grandmother had lost 2 children. That's staggering.
Yeah.
So now has anyone, you know, when we talk about that, the risk factor for the young person with the disease of addiction in their family goes up dramatically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And wouldn't you like to know that? If you were, you know, we certainly arm our kids with diabetes runs in our family. We have to watch our weight. We have to watch our sugar content. We have to watch
heart
what goes on.
disease, right? We
Heart
parents
disease,
do that.
right. We
Yeah.
all are cognizant of all these other diseases. But the very thing that we can do things to stop the disease from progressing.
Yeah. You know, and that, the conversation, again, going back to those domains and those 4, you know, those 4 areas, you know, if I got to write the book, first of all, you know, for that same young person who's lost the uncles and lost the brothers, they're now sitting in a math class and trying to cope and deal with all that, and pay attention and perform in school and do well on tests. And so there are so many different ways that, you know, if we had the magic pad, right, that schools need to do better. Schools are not the only, you know, they are not the only part of this solution.
Right? All 4 areas have to work together.
Kids don't pick up their first drink or drug in math class or English class, right? So, and schools, because of their budget shrinking, because of all of the different things they're under, the first thing they cut out are the arts and the drug and alcohol prevention work. And schools sometimes are afraid if we do drug and alcohol prevention work, that means that we're identifying our school as a problem. Well, guess what, folks? All schools have a problem, right? And you know, if I got to write it, I would write that every school had a K through 12 drug and alcohol educator, prevention worker in their school, and that they were using evidence-based programs, right? And that.
Let's talk about Northport School District that has Anthony Ferradino.
How awesome
drug
is that?
And how many children he saved simply by being in the building.
You know, I'm going to tell you real quick.
By being accessible.
Every place I go, I happen to run into a student that Anthony worked. As a matter of fact, I ran into, in Rhode Island this past weekend, ran into a student who he made a difference in his life. The kid and I took a picture and we sent it to Anthony, and I'm like, I keep finding your kids over, right? So just by that school being smart enough to say, we care about this enough, we're going to put somebody in the school who's ready to work on all different levels. Now, Anthony just had me come in and present as part of their RAP week, right? So not just to be there to crisis manage, but to really work on a prevention and skill-based type setting.
Yes.
So schools need to do better. Parents, we need to give the parents the support they need, right? Because we don't know what we don't know sometimes.
We don't know.
Right?
I didn't get a book.
Absolutely.
If I got a book and had read it prior to having kids, I may not have had them.
Right. And And here's
It's
I always tell parents when a
big job.
Absolutely. And when a kid is in your face, sometimes with their stuff, you can't let me Google and see what the appropriate response is. We're flying by the seat of our pants.
We're human.
And we're human, right? And so you just hope that you say enough of the right stuff and you have enough smarts to maybe, if you have to do some damage control, do some damage control, because we are human, right? And
We're
this
human.
is a work in progress.
And I think that's so important for parents to show.
Absolutely.
You know, by being able to humble yourself and say, I screwed up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that
I'm
appropriate
sorry.
management of feelings, right?
Yes.
That becomes so important to show our young people. And parents, we need to do better. Let's have, as parents, get together with all your friends, have one party a year where there's alcohol not present. Why? Because we want to tell our kids, we tell our kids all the time, have a party with alcohol, that you can have fun without alcohol. We need to show them how to do it. That as adults, we can get together and have a blast. And we don't have to have alcohol at the center. Now, I'm not saying all adults need to stop drinking. I'm not saying that at all.
No, you're not saying
but just
that.
model good
Model
behavior, right?
And I always like to remember that 1-year-old baby that can work your cell phone,
right?
That can work the iPad,
Just watch
bring up Sesame Street on there or watch their own movies. Think about that.
Yeah.
And you
I'll
say,
break
oh
that
my
up.
God, my child's a genius. Or that baby's so smart. They're all so
They're taking
smart.
it in.
They
all
take it, they're a
taking it in.
sponge.
Yeah. We also suggest to parents that they have, when they do have parties, have 2 separate coolers at parties. Let the soda, the drinks, and the water be in one. Let your alcohol be in another. And make sure you have an eye on where that is. That's an essential place where folks can see it, right? That becomes an important thing. Have different ways that you check in. But don't just have one conversation. And we know this is set up for us to have a conversation on Thursday night, but let's not have one conversation. Let's bring up from a health policy point of view that we begin to show our kids each and every way, that we teach them different decision-making skills, how to deal with conflict, how to value your opinion and stand for something, and how to really make some good health choices for themselves as they develop.
That's what we want to teach our children.
Yeah.
And we're almost out of time.
Oh.
So I want to say, it is National Conversation Night.
Yeah.
The conversation is breakfast, lunch, dinner. Anytime you can find the moment to talk about it, talk about it. Because if you're not talking about it with your child, somebody else is. So it might as well be your words. They look to you. They look to their
Still
parents.
the number one influence are parents.
Still the number one influence.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I challenge coaches, sit your star player for not doing the right thing the night before.
Oh, yeah.
Once.
Yeah.
They have to sit out one game, and it'll never happen again.
Yeah. We have to start standing for something.
We do. We have to start really, as a community, schools, families, if we all come together and are all facing the same direction, it's already shifting.
Absolutely.
Look at everyone that's come out of the woodwork, you know, celebrity-wise. It's shifting.
Yeah.
Now let's really hit the gas pedal and change the direction that we're going in. I want to thank Kim for being here tonight, and thank you. I know that this was valuable information, and we will get the Oasis website up on the Thomas's Facebook page, and also hugs. Awesome, incredible work that Kim does with young people. Changed my life going to her weekend, that weekend on Shelter Island. Changed my world.
Changed mine when I was 16,
Yeah.
and I still sit here today because of it.
Yep. So we can do better, we have to do better, and we will do better. We will do better as Long Island and as a country. We will do better. Have a great week. And I just want to remind people, we're coming into the holiday season. Partying going on during the holiday season. Just remember, somebody's always watching you too. Have a great, awesome week. Good night.
Another dark hotel room.